enjoy this video by Freddie Marsh-Lott.
You know, there is an incredible ripple effect created when you invest in a girl. You've been hearing us all talk about that. These girls become women who reinvest in their communities, and entire generations are affected. Girls Inc. understands this. The Girls Inc. experience equips the girls as they navigate gender and economic and social barriers to grow into healthy, educated, and independent adults. It's hard to believe, but here in the prosperous and educated Bay Area, the Oakland School District reports that 1 in 3 girls will not finish high school in Oakland. How could that be? And the statistics for Latina and African American girls are even worse. We are here today to change those statistics. Girls Inc. wants to start, does already start working with girls as young as 5 years old. The award-winning programs build the foundations that are needed for future success, and as the girls grow, the programs grow with them. The girls are engaged in curriculum which spans science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM programs everybody's talking about now, but also health and wellness, leadership, workforce development, mentorship, college prep, positive risk-taking, and so much more.
Our next guest, he dramatically turned his life around from serving time in federal prison to becoming an executive chef at some of the top restaurants in this country. Please welcome to the show the host of a brand new show. It's called Flip My Food with Chef Jeff. Jeff Henderson is with us. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to find out all about what flipping food is all about, but tell us your story, because this is a remarkable turnaround for you. You found yourself on the wrong side of the law.
Yes, you know, many years ago when I grew up right here in South Central Los Angeles and San Diego, I made a lot of poor choices in my life. And I don't make excuses, you know. I've done some things I'm not proud of, what led me to prison. You know, and I came from a traditional family in my community, a broken home, generational poverty, father and mother divorced when I was young. And during the 1980s, you know, drugs got heavy in our community and went to prison. So it was a journey for me, but it turned out to be where I didn't get arrested. I got rescued.
How long were you there for?
Almost 10 years in federal prison. Yeah.
10 years.
10 years, yeah.
How do you find people react? I mean, and you turn things around and it's all great now and it's a happy ending, but the reaction that you get from people when they learn of your story?
Well, it's interesting. I get it 2 ways. You know, I've done some things I wasn't proud of, and I'm
Can we ask
continuing.
why you went to prison?
For drugs.
Oh.
I got caught up in the drugs and whatnot, and I went to prison in 1988. And it was during my time in prison when I kind of had an epiphany. I learned to read. I went to school. First time I ever was told I was smart was in prison. And so it kind of became an adult timeout versus an incarceration, believe it or not.
Wow, what a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't look at it like that at first. It was later in life when I started to really realize that, hey, here's a time for me to rebuild myself and figure out who I am. And I just took the gifts that I was naturally born with and applied them to learning and changing my life.
Well, Chef, how did you get involved with food in prison?
Everyone always loves to ask that question. Let me tell you, it's strange. I never dreamt of becoming a chef. I wasn't one of those chefs who grew up on a farm with my grandfather, you know, harvesting produce and whatnot. I lost my job in prison, and the punishment was the pot and pan crew. And got in the kitchen and was inspired by a guy by the name of Friendly Womack and Big Roy. And they taught me how to cook. And, you know, food is the most important thing to people who are incarcerated.
Okay, hang on a second. Hang on. Yeah, that's true. That is so true. How does prison food inspire somebody to come? Because I understand it's not the greatest, you know, square you're going to get.
Well, I was in federal prison during the time when they called it Club Fed. And we were very passionate about the food we cooked. So whatever ingredients we had, we took pride and we put a lot of love into it. So I used to buy all the top ramen noodles because I wanted the seasoning packages. So, yeah, so I could enhance my little food. And I also had a little catering business in prison. I cooked for a lot of the white-collar inmates, the Wall Street boys. So they were elitist. They didn't want to wait in line to go to the chow hall. So I had a little cell catering business where I took chicken, eggs, and onions.
That's brilliant. I love it.
Did you come up with that, or was that an idea already in place?
No,
you took it to
it just came natural. You know, I've been an entrepreneur my whole, and when I was young, I worked at a janitorial. I worked with my grandfather. I was a #1 newspaper boy. I was a candy seller. Just had a bad product. And when I got in the prison kitchen, people started praising me for my food and said, Jeff, you got to think about being a chef. Then one day I read an article in the USA Today about the top African-American chefs in the country. And I said, wow, brothers are cooking on an island. You know?
Yeah.
So I said, I got to learn some French and Italian cuisine, you know? So hey, there it is.
Well, not only did you learn how to cook in prison, you also met your wife.
I did.
How did you meet your wife?
Well, you know, there's a culture of women who love men incarcerated, but my wife isn't one of those. So there she is. There.
Where was this taken?
That was the day I was released in 1996. And actually, her uncle who introduced us was Friendly Womack. And we started corresponding, and she wasn't looking for a man or anything. She felt sorry for me. She said, Jeff, I can help you get a driver's license. You know, I had to get new socks, underclothes, all these different things. And we started corresponding, and we kind of like fell in love, and I sold her on my dream.
And now you guys are together?
We're together. We have 5 kids.
Oh, nice.
We're married 18 years.
Wow.
Okay, so then how do you tell your children of your past? How have you dealt with that?
Well, I have an open book, and I believe in transparency. As a father, you know, I teach my kids when you make mistakes, these are the consequences. And I made poor choices in my life, and I had to go away. So I use my life journey as teaching moments for my kids. I don't hold anything back. Right. But it's never too late to turn your life around. It doesn't matter where you come from, what mistakes you made. We've all made poor choices in life. And I just decided that I wanted to change my life.
And look how beautiful, your beautiful family.
Look at that. How many are you cooking every night at home? How do you?
Well, I usually don't say this. My wife is a better cook than me, a home cook that is. She's super good. My kids are vegan and my wife is vegetarian.
Oh,
so
you're going to make pork, right?
I'm going to make pork, but good pork that is. Yeah, I eat everything from the snooty to the booty, let me tell you. Now, I can't eat a lot of this stuff at home because they give me a hard time. But, yeah, I usually take the holidays, but me and my wife have a great relationship, but we don't get along in the kitchen.
Yeah.
She's messy.
Yeah.
I'm organized, like a restaurant chef. So we split the menu during the holidays, and then we meet up at dinner time and we throw down. So
how does a chef like you who has this massive palate all of a sudden go, my kids are vegan, my wife's vegetarian, you're restricting me here with my creativity in the kitchen?
Well, I had to learn. I can make anything vegan. I can make anything gluten-free. It's all about the ingredients and the technique that you use and how you infuse flavor boosters, which is a big part of my new show, Flip My Food. I flip food and make it a little bit healthier.
Okay, Jeff, the book is titled Down Home, Downtown. Which are you?
I'm down home, as can be seen by not just how we do things, and we use a lot of bacon and things from our garden, and I raise chickens and have a small farm. That kind of is the down home aspect of the book. Okay.
And tell me about the inspiration of the cookbook and your pal Josh.
So the inspiration for the cookbook comes from the conversations that Josh and I would have as chef restaurant owners over the years about changing seasonal menus and what he's putting on the menu at Syrah, what I've had on the menu at Zen at the same time, and they're usually the same ingredients but done in 2 different ways. And So the inspiration from the book was taking our two different styles of preparation of the same ingredients, say spring lamb, and doing a Syrah version and a Zip version. So a down home and a downtown. So.
Okay. Now I can't help but notice that there's a toolbox.
Oh yeah, this is my my knife kit is a toolbox. It's not a fancy suitcase on wheels.
That would be sort of considered down home, wouldn't it?
A toolbox would be very down home. And also some of my stuff from the garden that I just picked today out in the mud, some peppers. That's very down home. Like I said, Josh really doesn't like to get his hands dirty that much, so he's not real down home in that aspect.
So, what are the peppers that we have here? Looks like you got a little bit of a variety.
Yeah, so we've got, well, this is just our regular green bell, which will turn red. We've got Gianardello, Italian frying peppers, which are some things we grow they're on the slow food arc of taste, which we both support. And then these are sheep-nosed pimentos, another slow food pepper, green turning red, all of them.
Okay. So one of my favorite things here on Zin menu is the New Mexican green chili.
The New Mexico green chili.
Any of those peppers go in there?
So not of these, but we grow 9 different varieties of peppers.
Okay.
And so our green chili is our Anaheims, our poblanos, and jalapenos.
Run all day to chase the pain. Away I go down the dark, dark, dark quarters of rain sounds so cliche. Extreme by name, yes, this is my game of life. My love, you see, that attractive pain of my bamboo dream. Yeah, I'm married. All my pain, all my hopes.
So Josh, tell me about this cookbook and what the inspiration behind it was.
Well, the inspiration was my buddy Jeff Wall and I, who are best friends. He's a chef at Zen Restaurant in Healdsburg, and I'm a chef at Syrah Restaurant here in Santa Rosa, and we both own a restaurant, and we both opened about a decade ago, which is huge in the restaurant world. And the inspiration came from, we would talk on the phone all the time, and I would say, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm changing the menu. I'm like, me too, what are you putting on? Short ribs, me too, how are you doing yours? And we really discovered that we use a lot of the same ingredients because of where we are and how we cook. It just his is in a more down-home style and mine's a more downtown style. And we really figured that, you know, what a great approach for a book to do something where, you know, the consumer can find like two chefs who cook totally different yet the same. You know, we both believe in freshness, we both believe in where we are and the sense of place of Northern California. It's a chef's playground here. You know, I like to tell people, if you can't cook good in this county, you're in trouble. And,
so you guys just did 2 dinners to celebrate, sort of release the cookbook. How did that go over?
They went fantastic. Jeff came to my kitchen. I got to cook with him in here. And then I went up to his place. They were both sold out. Both recipes on one plate went out. People had such a blast eating that way. And they thought it was so fun that we're going to probably do it again in the winter and one in the summer as well. So stay tuned for that.
How you doing? Chef Marvin Brown. I'm a catering chef. I cater in private cooking events. Also spokesperson for the American Heart Association, American Diabetes Association, and Real Men Cook. I'm active in the community trying to change people's attitudes about food. If I had to say one thing about my cooking style or what I believe in as it relates to food and cooking, healthy and good do not have to be mutually exclusive when it comes to food. Food should taste and be good at the same time. Before I start, I always introduce my shirt. This is my blog, I write a food blog. And this is my son, Jameson, who's, since he's 4, has been cooking with me right about the same time when I started cooking.
The instructors today who's been doing workshop demonstrations all afternoon with some of the chefs up here. This is Neela Panis. She's the owner of Neela's Contemporary India Cooking, a restaurant that's been open for about 2 years in downtown Napa Valley. And before that, she was the owner of the Bombay Cafe in Los Angeles. She's always specialized in Indian cuisine. She had some wonderful demonstrations today. And I thought we'd ask her just a few questions about what makes Indian cuisine authentic, what we could do in this country in kind of on-site environments to offer Indian flavor profiles, but perhaps not be trapped with the stereotypical image that so many people have of Indian cuisine. So let me start with this question, Neela.
Yeah.
Tell me quickly about some of the key spices and pantry items you'd find if you were trying to prepare more authentic food in the Indian tradition.
Well, in order to prepare really authentic Indian food, you do need a lot of spices. You need cumin, coriander, turmeric, red chili or cayenne, and those can be in powder form, but also you would need the cumin seeds, you would need the coriander seeds. You also need garam masala in its original form, which is whole spices, and then you toast them and make them into ground garam masala. And those include cinnamon, cloves, black pepper, cardamom, black cardamom, star anise, a little bit of mace, a little bit of nutmeg. Again, those are also a variation of garam masala that go from region to region. So, but I think the ones that I mentioned at the beginning, if you have cumin, coriander, cayenne, or red chili from India, turmeric, mustard seeds, you've got a lot already.
I think a lot of people think cumin is a Mexican spice, don't they? I mean...
Yes, because they do actually have it in Mexico. In fact, if you go to a market and you buy cumin, it's coming in from Mexico. You go to an Indian grocery store and you ask them if they've gotten it from India or from Mexico, there will be a difference. The cumin from India is a little bit less brownish in color, a little fatter, and is not as... sometimes, you know, when you have a complaint that I don't like curry powder, you're tasting that extra cumin in there, and can be a little powerful, whereas the Indian cumin is not as pungent.
Well, let's come back to that in a minute, but another thing you mentioned this morning in your presentation was the traditional style of serving in a communal meal.
Yes.
And I think people would be interested in hearing that, because it's not exactly family style, but it's not exactly individual plates either.
Yeah, in India we eat on a round, large plate, almost like a charger, called a thali. And it could, probably in the days gone by, it was probably made of stone. Later it became copper or brass. And today it's obviously made with stainless steel, much more sanitary, easier to keep clean. And then they have little bowls that are called katoris. So every aspect of your meal is served in those little bowls. And thus you have almost like an a la carte meal. That is, but it's yours specifically. You have your rice in the center, you have your bread, you have your bowls of either your lentils or your vegetables, whether they're cooked in a gravy or whether they're cooked with just dry spices. And if you have got some protein, that'll be in another bowl. Now, if your protein has been barbecued or made into a kebab, then it won't be in a bowl, it'll be directly on the plate itself. Any of your yogurt relishes, raitas, any of your chutneys, any of your pickles, they're all on this plate. So you have the option of using your rice and your bread as the vehicle for that individual taste of either the vegetable or the meat or the lentil to enjoy it with. So it becomes like the spoon. You know, in India we don't use utensils, we use our fingers. And people wonder, how do you use your rice? How do you eat with your fingers? And there's a little bit of etiquette to that too. So the wet ingredients sort of help you form a little spoonful of morsel of food with the rice.
Bread.
The bread actually you use as a scoop.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
All right. Now, another comment you made was that people misunderstand Indian cuisine because they imagine that Indian cuisine is curry and rice, and they've had such poor experiences a lot of times with curry and rice because it was poorly prepared or some other reason that they really are a little leery of trying Indian cuisine. You mentioned it was one of the more slowly on the uptake in this country as we've become interested in global cuisines. Indian hasn't been adapted quite as fast as some of the others. Speak about this curry and rice issue, will you?
Well, I think first of all we have to define what is an Indian curry. And I think the problem is that most people, when they think of curry, they're thinking of that jar of that yellow powder that says curry powder on it. And so immediately their reaction is negative. The problem with that jar is, first of all, they think it's a spice, but it's really not. It's a blend of spices. But an actual curry is more of a stew. So you've created a spice base with aromatics such as onions, tomatoes, ginger, green chili, garlic, yogurt, cream, whatever, depending on the region. And then you've used your whole spices and or your ground spices, and you've come up with this lovely sort of paste, which then becomes the sauce base.